Hello, my name's Alan Foom, and today I'm going to talk about hydrogen and energy, another one of our basic primer series. So here we have two things. Here we have, well, let's get the big elephant in the room, or the manatee out, or the humanity, the Hindenburg. And here's potentially how the hydrogen system might evolve from present to future, uh, graphic from the US Department of Energy. So hydrogen present, hydrogen future. So at the moment, yes, it's the Hindenburg again. Be the last but one mention of it. So hydrogen's progressed a significant play in the future of energy as part of decarbonisation in some sectors. At the moment, it's mostly exclusively used for petrochemicals, metallurgy, fertilizer, so a relatively narrow range of applications. But in the future, we can use it for heat, either space heating or industrial heat. We can use it for transport. Now, hydrogen fuel cells in small vehicles haven't really gone very far, but it could be used for heavier transport, rapid response electricity generation, working together with renewables, and mainly displacing hydrocarbons. And because hydrogen does not generate CO2 when you burn it, potentially a significant part of decarbonisation. But there are concerns over cost, infrastructure scale, and yes, the Hindenburg problem and concerns regarding safety. So, Five Colours Hydrogen. No, it's not a film by Krzysztof Kieślowski, Polish-French film director, Three Colours Blue, but different types of hydrogen production. So you have using renewable nuclear power with electrolysis, that's green hydrogen, natural gas through steam methane reformation, grey hydrogen if the CO2 is then vented into the atmosphere, or blue hydrogen if the CO2 is then captured and stored underground in geological storage, CCUS. And I've got a video on that on my channel there. Or using coal, which is brown hydrogen, or using electricity from the grid by electrolysis, which is not renewable, which is white hydrogen. Now there are others, it's kind of gets a little bit of a kaleidoscope, but these are the main ones, and we'll talk a little bit about them now. So most hydrogen is made by steam methane reformation. So you get methane, natural gas, CH4, with water, H2O, plus some heat, and then using this process, steam reforming, you get hydrogen out and you get CO2 out as well. Now CO2 goes into the atmosphere. People are concerned about climate change. CO2 can potentially contributing to that. So you go blue. Use the same process, but then you capture the CO2, you store it underground as CCS. Alternatively, you go to electrolysis. You have electricity, you have water, out comes oxygen, out comes hydrogen. Oxygen is great for the, well, we'd be kind of dead without it, so it's kind of pretty useful. Hydrogen's useful too. Or methane pyrolysis, we have methane, heat, and then you have hydrogen, and then you have solid carbon out of that. So that's called turquoise hydrogen. Yeah, it's a bit complicated. And these costs are there from Wikipedia. I'll talk a little bit about costs later because there are quite a few different estimates of that. At the moment, most hydrogen is produced here by methane steam, methane reformation. Then you have oil reforming, which is here 29%, so about half methane, about 29% oil. 17% is by coal gasification, Fischer-Tropsch, etc., mainly in China because they've got a lot of coal, and just under 4% by electrolysis. Now, this is potentially scheduled to grow quite a lot. So this is present, and then the future might be a little bit different. In terms of costs, again, you've got a wide estimate of costs. I've taken these from different people who could be quoted on Wikipedia. So it's National Energy Agency, PricewaterhouseCoopers, UK government, etc., etc., etc. So I've taken a low number and a high number. So grey is cheaper than blue, is cheaper than green at the moment. This may well change. Now, obviously with grey and blue, the main component here is the cost of natural gas. Natural gas has gone up quite significantly in the recent past. That's been a bit of a problem. Here is the cost of electricity. Quite what's going to happen, we don't know. At the moment, in terms of calorific value, in terms of heat value, hydrogen is 2.5 times more calorific, but you need 3 times the volume. So it kind of doesn't really balance out that well. In terms of calorific value per dollar, at the moment, hydrogen is between 8 and 12 times more expensive than natural gas. Again, not that competitive, but there are specific things which you need it for, but for general applications, not competitive at the moment. May change. Hydrogen production locations. So this is a map on the IEA website, interactive map. So that's the Western Hemisphere, that's the Eastern Hemisphere. And this big blue dot here is the Quest CCS project. This is a blue hydrogen project in Alberta, Canada, operated by Shell. and captures emissions from this Scotford heavy oil hydrogenation upgrader. You've got a lot of very heavy oil to do with the Alberta tar sands. That needs to be lightened down to be more profitable, to be more usable, and they do that by adding hydrogen to it, and they bury the CO2 from that particular process. So that's the Quest CCS project in Alberta, Canada. So what's hydrogen used for at the moment, and what's it likely to be used for in the future? So at the moment, about 42% is used within the refining, so that's for upgrading heavier oils, etc. 38% is used in ammonia, so that's to do with fertilizer manufacture. 15% is used for methanol production. About 5% is used for direct iron reduction and other uses. And direct iron reduction is used in steel making, where you basically refine iron ore to produce pig iron and then steel. So these are the traditional uses, and virtually all hydrogen is used within traditional methods at the moment. And this is a chart based on data from the International Energy Agency. So this is what it is right now. So about 85, 90 million tons a year. Refining, ammonia, methanol, metallurgy, same colors as the pie chart. By 2030, you've got all these new uses. So that's heat, energy storage, etc., and all of these other new things that are going to potentially happen. Now, again, you've got to add another 50, 60% to present production to create all that. But things aren't going that smoothly. Now, this is a graphic posted by a man called Greg Molnar, publishes quite a lot on social media. He works for the IEA, and he does a lot of work on hydrogen. So these are new hydrogen projects that are planned in Europe. So planned in Britain, in Netherlands, in Denmark, Germany, and then others. So adding about 7 million tons a year to present production. And this is the technology, so it's mainly going to be either blue hydrogen or it's going to be green hydrogen. So by electrolysis or by steam methane reformation with CCS. But according to Greg, less than 4% of the project's actually in advanced stage of development. So you want to make this happen by 2030, and these plants take years to make. Target's looking a bit difficult to meet. Same here with storage developments lagging behind. So a lot of conversation. Unfortunately, not quite enough on the action front. In terms of global hydrogen use, so these are two graphics from IHS Markit, and this is from S&P Global, who took over IHS Markit. So effectively China, big hydrogen consumer, Middle East, United States, Eastern Europe, that includes the former Soviet Union, Western Europe, Southwest Asia, that's effectively Indian subcontinent, Canada, Japan, etc. And this is, again, Northeast Asia is mainly China, with Japan and Korea, North America, Middle East, etc. Not much in the way of trade. United States a big importer. Again, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Netherlands, and then France. So again, limited trade via tankers. Most of the hydrogen is produced on the premises. Now, there's been quite a lot of discussion, particularly Equinor, the Norwegian national oil company, were looking at, do you pipe methane to Germany where they make it into hydrogen, or do you make hydrogen in Norway with the methane, i.e. blue hydrogen, and then pipe it to the customers? Well, whichever one of them makes economic sense, that's what's going to happen. So this is the new hydrogen system. Again, this is the graphic from the US Department of Energy. So these are the traditional ammonia, metals, chemical processes. And these are the new ones. So transportation, synthetic fuels. So effectively you take carbon and you make and hydrogen, you make hydrocarbons, artificial fuels, upgrading oil and biomass, that's already takes place. So these are new ones. Heat distributed power. At the moment, most of the heat that this would displace would be heat that's produced by natural gas. So either industrial heat or domestic heat or space heating. Industrial heat's probably more likely. Space heat, there was going to be a trial in northeastern England, and the locals were very unhappy about it. They were concerned about safety, but we'll talk a little bit about that later. And then balancing the electricity grid. So if you've got a lot of electricity that's generated by intermittent renewables, you need a response when the sun doesn't shine, when the wind doesn't blow, and a hydrogen-fueled gas turbine power station would effectively do that. So you're displacing natural gas within that. So you store the hydrogen in salt caverns and then you use that. Quite what will happen later, we don't know, but these are the new potential uses of hydrogen, which could be quite exciting, could be quite interesting. IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, so hardly a fossil fuel biased entity, has looked at where things should be high priority and then things should be less priority. So residential heating, they're more in favor of electrification. I can see the point of that. Whereas chemicals, refineries, international shipping, aviation, seasonal storage, that's where hydrogen might play a role, as well as long-haul trucks, ferries, etc. Urban vehicles, well, that can be electrified. I think the electrification, electrical vehicles have sort of taken that on more than anything else. Trains could be electrified, but in some areas that might be a bit challenging, so you might use to displace diesel trains with hydrogen trains. Again, might happen, might not happen. So mainly they reckon industrial heat, long-range transport, and the traditional uses in terms of petrochemicals. Next thing I'll briefly mention is the gold rush. So this is natural hydrogen, the rarest hydrogen. There's probably actually quite a lot of it about, it's just not very well concentrated. There was a hydrogen discovery in Mali, in a place called Bougou, which was put into production locally and it's used for local work. There's been some hydrogen exploration in Nebraska in the central part of USA, potential breakthroughs. So a fair amount of hype. We're at the very early hype stage. So let's just talk a little bit about that. So natural hydrogen place system, effectively, it works like a petroleum place system. You need a reservoir, a source, and a seal. And the key part here is the source, where natural hydrogen is generated by the radioactive rocks splitting with water. It's slow, takes a long time. Serpentinization, where you have high temperature water reacting with iron and ferrous rocks to split off the hydrogen. That's probably the source of most of the hydrogen, and there's potential from deep core, but mainly serpentinized rock. Hydrogen is generated, floats up, gets trapped in a reservoir with a top seal, just like hydrocarbons do. Looking at potential, so again, this is a diagram of how it will work. So water coming in, serpentinized rocks, giving off hydrogen trapped in traps, similar to hydrocarbon traps with a reservoir and a seal. So potential areas that we looked at, again, you're looking at older rocks, you're looking at cratons, and there's quite a lot of interesting stuff on these guys' website, GTEC, very useful company, and they're looking at natural hydrogen, how they've evolved. So please check them out. They're very useful. Looking at Mali, so this is West Africa, this is the center of Mali, in a place called Bouraka-Bougou. Natural hydrogen trapped in proterozoic carbonates, so significantly older, very old rocks, so before much shelf life evolved, so Precambrian, very high H2 hydrogen saturations, up to 98%. Very interesting paper in Nature, which is where I've taken these graphics from. Please have a look at that. It's been producing H2 since 2020, mainly for local electricity generation. But if you found that here, this is found by accident. What if you go looking for it? What potentially could you find? So just looking at barriers, and there are still quite a lot of barriers in there. I mean, the main barriers are cost. You know, hydrogen's a lot more expensive than natural gas, depending on where you are. And the higher cost for green and blue hydrogen than are for grey. You need huge investments, both in generation, distribution, infrastructure, and scale. Just a lot of money needs to go into it to make it work. And there's competition from other technologies in each new application. In terms of electrification, potential carbon capture and storage for methane, again, quite a lot of competition there. You need the right regulations, relatively new technology to be put at scale. Trade regime, how is it going to be traded? Where's it going to be produced? Is it going to make it in Norway? Are you going to pipe the methane to Germany and CCS the resultant carbon dioxide there? You also need appropriate safety regime. They've demonstrated some of the technologies, but scaling has been patchy, and infrastructure at scale will be large and complicated. You need special metallurgy to make everything work. You've got things like hydrogen damage, hydrogen embezzlement to steel. You need to look at safety concerns, and political concerns need to reassure the public. Safety, environmental performance, need for effective engagement. So summarize, the huge manatee. Yes, I mentioned Hindenburg once again. I feel that hydrogen does have a role to play. Could displace some hydrocarbons, industrial heat, heavy transport, maybe space heating. But would it play a major role in electricity storage? Maybe, maybe not. Why not just go nuclear? The barriers that exist, barriers to cost, barriers to scale of infrastructure, and the Hindenburg perception of safety. Thank you very much. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.